Good afternoon. Welcome to the Township of Whitewater Region Regular Council meeting for Wednesday, May 4, 2022 at 4:51 p.m. As we gather, we would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all generations of the people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Please stand for the prayer. Almighty God, we give thanks for the great blessings which have been bestowed on Canada and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace that we enjoy. Guide us in our deliberations as Township Councillors and strengthen us in our awareness of our duties and responsibilities. Grant us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to preserve the blessings of this country for the benefit of all and to make good laws and wise decisions. Amen.
Ow! Just kidding. That was dramatic. I'm sorry. I'm okay.
Okay, at this time, I would ask if there's any disclosure of interest for this evening. Seeing none, thank you. Now we'll move on to...
Oh, this one there. I didn't print it off, but can you read it? We're going to do these volunteer awards on the screen. I'm sorry.
Oh, that one, yes. Okay. No, I have it here. Now we'll go to our awards ceremony we had earlier this week, or late last week. 2022 Volunteer Award winners. For Youth Volunteer Award was Cassie Veraken. Cassie is a graduate from Fellows High School and will be attending college in the fall to pursue a career in nursing. Cassie has volunteered substantially within the community at the Farmers Market and several local fairs. Cassie is also a member of numerous community organizations, including 4-H and Mascot Minor Hockey League. Congratulations, Cassie. Our Adult Volunteer Award goes to Uzziah Horst. Uzziah is the contact person in the eastern area of the Mennonite Disaster Services. He has volunteered to help countless people after experiencing disaster. His support was greatly appreciated during the 2019 flood. Uzziah's philosophy is everyone can use a helping hand sometimes, and if he can help or direct through the Mennonite community members, he is doing what he needs to do. Congratulations, Uzziah, and thank you very much for your help in the flood. It was greatly appreciated. And Lifetime Achievement Award, Jim Lebeau. Jim is the definition of volunteer. He has been active in his community from his teens through his adult years and continues today in many capacities. In his youth, he was part of the 4-H and junior farmers. In his adult years, he volunteered with the Beachburg Lions Club, the Pembroke Regional Hospital, Beachburg Recreation Association, Renfrew County Plowmen's Association, Ontario Winter Games, and the Beachburg St. Andrews United Church. He's also well known for his term as councillor and mayor of the Township of Whitewater Region. Congratulations, Jim. So now we move on to our item number 4, public meeting. We're now moving to zoning bylaw amendment. And the recommendation will be read by Rob, or do I read that? I read it. Sorry, here it is. Recommendation that the council receive comments from the public at the public meeting and direct staff to bring back a planning report to a future council meeting with recommendations on how to proceed with the zoning bylaw amendment intended to permit 4 campsites on the subject property. So we need a motion and a seconder, please. Councillor Mackay and Councillor Nicholson, thank you. And this goes to Rob, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just read from the script. If any person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Whitewater Region before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of Council of the Township of Whitewater Region to the Ontario Land Tribunal. The person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. Under Section 3411 of the Planning Act, if Council decides to refuse an application or refuses or neglects to make a decision on an application within 120 days of the municipal clerk receiving the application, the applicant or the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing may appeal to the tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality. Section 3419 of the Planning Act states that not later than 20 days after giving notice of passing of the bylaw, the applicant, any person or public body who made oral submission at the public meeting or made a written submission to council before the bylaw was passed, or the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, may appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality.
The address for the zoning amendment is 165A Pinewood Park Road. The purpose is to hear from the public with a follow-up report to come in June for the planner, at which time council will discuss the application and make a decision which can be subject to an appeal of the Ontario Land Tribunal. Will staff please give an overview of the application?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So I'll give an overview of the application. As you know, our planner is on parental leave at the present time, so we've contracted the services of Forbes Simon, who gave just a preliminary report outlining official planning, zoning-related provisions. So this application that's filed by Ms. Bromley is for 165 Pinewood Park Road and requesting permission to have a camping establishment with a maximum of 4 sites. The property is roughly 46.6 hectares in size and has been operated as a hobby farm since 2012. It has 1,200 meters of frontage on Olmsted Lake. As I outlined, the planner outlined in the report the applicable policies of the provincial policy statement, the Renfrew County official plan, and the Township of Ross zoning. The report also speaks about significant public comments we've received to date. And they relate generally to the ecological impact, existing campgrounds on the lake, the need for a lake capacity assessment, questions on how services and waste would be managed on site, how future expansion would be dealt with, waterfront activity, fires and noise, and illegal operation prior to this year. And the purpose, I just want to reiterate to everyone, anybody can put in a zoning application. So what council is doing is processing it. This is an opportunity to hear from the public as part of the public meeting. And in a month's time or so, staff, the planner will come back and council will debate and deliberate at that time and make a decision. So the purpose of today is to hear from both the applicant and anyone that has concerns. And as I said in the script earlier, for your appeal rights, as long as you submit in writing prior to a decision being made by council in June, or appeared in person today, either via Zoom or in person, then that would preserve your appeal rights should you disagree with the final decision. I should point out that the planner has noted that site plan would likely be required should this be allowed, and that a number of studies would be required, including an environmental impact statement, an archaeological assessment, an aggregate impact assessment due to the zoning, and as well as a hydro-G assessment based on some of the comments regarding potable water in the lake. Sean. So I think that provides an overview of the application and the review by the planner. And Mr. Mayor, just the process will be to kind of hear from everybody, their comments and concerns and position, and that will be noted for the record. And then again, staff will come back in June with a report, and at that time, council will discuss the matter more fully. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Blumley, you are present, so would you like to speak?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. So we will go to Zoom now, I believe.
Yes, please. And we'll start. Jason Schultz is for the Cobden apartment, so Wenzel. But I don't know who their first name is. Mr. and Mrs. Wenzel, are you on? Did I say their last name right?
I don't even see it.
They're the black corner.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're here.
can I get your first name, please? And you can be the first to speak if you like.
Okay, Julie, go ahead, please.
Okay, so we submitted in writing our concerns with regards to the campsite. Now, again, just to reiterate what I said, is that there's already two fairly large campsites on what is very small lakes. So our concern is the more traffic on the lakes and the, the environmental impact it has on the waterway. There's already some algae forming at the bottom of the lake, which I know there's always some, but it seems more and more each year. I don't know if that, if having more campsites will affect that, or what completely causes that. But that's one of our concerns. The other one is just the traffic on the lake has just gotten absolutely crazy with the people that are there, and two existing campsites. There's got to be 12 or 15 pontoon boats already at the two campsites that cruise up and down the lake and fly by all the cottages and are causing erosion. And to add 4 more campsites, which, last year they had about 9 campsites that they were running apparently. And to say they're only going to have 4 at this point is a little, not quite sure if we believe that. We'll also want to know who's going to police this for us. Like if you give permission for 4 campsites, who's responsible for policing this and ensuring that they have the proper places to go to the bathroom, the proper places to dispose of and any kind of anything other than gray water. Who's going to take care of that? Do they have to abide by the same rules that are by Pinewood and Yonder Hill? Who's going to take care of that is one of our big things, is because from what we've heard and what we've seen and that around the lake, this person has been aggressive towards other people that are viewing their lots and seeing what's going on. And we don't feel it's the responsibility of the other cottagers on the lake to be reporting any incidents other than major things that we see, big fires or something like that. But we shouldn't have to be responsible for policing what these people are going to be doing on their property. And, is the township, is bylaw, who's going to go in to make sure they only have 4 there? How is that going to be taken care of? Anyways, and again, just to wrap it up, our concerns are probably a lot of the same of the whole lake association, and those people that are trying to keep our waterways clear and have fish in it, and the watershed. I was up planting trees this year, helping out with that for the different watersheds to keep the shorelines. So that's our concern, is just we want everything looked into. And also, sorry, just to add to that, what are the guidelines? Like what stops anybody from doing this if they have a good chunk of water frontage, or if they have access to the water? What's going to stop anybody from just setting up campsites and doing what they want? So anyways, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll go on to the next one.
Jim Anderson, but that's not Jim.
Okay, we're going to the screen that says Jim Anderson, but there's a female there. Could you identify yourself, please? I think you're on mute. You're on mute. We can't hear you. There we go.
Hi,
Okay.
sorry. My name is Arlene Anderson.
Okay.
My husband Jim is here. We're using his computer. Thank you for allowing me to speak. As noted in our written submission, my husband Jim and I own several properties directly across from the property in question on the water, and also some properties behind. We started purchasing these properties over 30 years ago from Jim's grandfather and parents who bought property on the lake over 65 years ago. So we've seen a great deal of change on the lake, and we've expected a lot of change on the lake. We, in our own section, have tried to keep the waterfront as rough as possible and as natural as possible. It's a high priority for us. This change, though, however, could most likely set a precedent in the overall Whitewater region, and also may impact all of the lakes, not just simply Olmsted Jeffreys Lake. Previously, we haven't had camping at the waterfront on Olmsted Jeffreys Lake. The campsites in the existing trailer parks are well back off the water, similar really to most provincial parks. And none of them would be described as a tourist establishment. So this is really a big change. And as we mentioned, and as the previous speaker mentioned, we own 4 waterfront properties directly across from the property in question, and these 4 lots behind. The question arises is, what would prevent us from wanting to do exactly the same thing as what has been proposed here? We don't want to do that, but why would this be given priority over anyone wanting to do this on the lake? This is the thin edge of the wedge. We're also in the same situation as the property across the way. We have a significant tax burden on properties that we're leaving raw, and we understand people wanting to mitigate some of their tax burden, and I understand wanting to proceed with that, but it has to be done extremely cautiously, given the size and scope of the lake. As you mentioned at the outset, we think that there really needs to be more studies done, and in particular, a baseline study to determine the water quality of the lake. And if this negatively impacts the lake and causes problems, can the zoning be revoked? What recourse do we have in this area? I'm assuming there needs to be consultation with the fire department and the health unit and everything that needs to be on these appropriate camping sites. But what also begs the question is insurance. What kind of insurance for this kind of tourist activity? We own a factory, and we have to have appropriate insurance for our staff and a lot of safety requirements. And this is something that we worry about daily. And seeing what was happening across the lake was of grave concern to my husband and I. So how does the township ensure that there's appropriate insurance in place? So this change will certainly negatively impact the small lake. It will be setting a precedent, possibly for the entire township. It will result in an increased burden on the township to monitor and enforce adherence to all of the rules that need to be set out. But also, we really want to focus on liability. What liability will the township of Whitewater be taking on here? If an accident or fire or damage to the environment is the result, not only the other property owners will suffer, but the township will also bear a burden in this regard. So I think that we consider that a decision on this change is premature. We're not in favor of the zoning bylaw amendment in as much as we might want to do the same thing across the way. And I think that everyone can agree that Olmsted Jeffrey Lake is a wonderful place. Most of us have put our life savings into it and only want the best for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to do Andrew McDonald next, please.
Oh, he's with JP2G, my apologies.
Oh, sorry, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm here for that.
We'll move on to the next, sorry. You can speak later. Debbie McDonald.
Sorry, I didn't know that.
Okay, we'll go to Debbie Mack. I believe that's Debbie McDonald. I'm not sure.
Yep, it is.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Debbie. Go ahead.
I've been a resident of Olmsted Jeffreys Lake. I'm the 5th generation property owner on Olmsted Jeffreys Lake. And we have 2 campsites, like has been stated. And last year on Jeffreys Lake itself, there was a large property for sale with 300 feet of waterfront and a large field. And like Arlene said, what's to stop anybody else from popping up these little campsites on the lakes? And the lake frontage is pretty full. There's no public access on either lakes. Almost all the properties on the lake have a dwelling on it. In fact, I have totaled 151 dwellings on our lake. 91 of them are cottages, 60 of them are houses. And I'm not sure if all these cottages, some of them are pretty old, if they have proper septic systems. And I know over the years being on the lake, I've seen, laundry foam, soap going down the lake. And my concern is the clarity of the lake right now is still pretty clear. We do testing every year with the Lake Association, and we have good results. The results of water testing that's been done by the Muskrat Watershed for the past 8 years have shown the lake is in good condition. But the lake further down from us last summer, Coldingham Lake, had blue-green algae, and the health unit was advised, and they were not able to go in the lake. And so that water flows into Jeffreys Lake. So again, I'm concerned about that. My other concern too is the property in question is quite a bit off the beaten road. And I'm wondering if the roadway into this property is accessible for fire trucks and ambulances. The property last year with the campsites had bonfires going. And what happened if a fire gets out of control? Last week, there was an out of control fire in Calabogie. It seems to be happening more and more as the environment changes. So access, to get emergency vehicles in there should a campfire get out of control. And of course, there's the disposal of human waste. There's no electricity as far as I know at this campsite. So a lot of the issues, I'm just repeating over and over, but it's a concern to everybody on the lake that has a property. You know, we don't want to see our cottages burned. When I was a teenager, a neighbor had a bonfire go out of control, and the fire department in Whitewater and Haley's was called in, and it charred quite a large chunk of property in the bush above my cottage. I would not want to see a repeat of something like that. So my concern is just how many campsites are allowed on a lake. And like Arlene said, what's to stop anybody from doing this? Like, a rule has to be put in place, and otherwise, you know, there's a danger that lakes are just going to get overpopulated. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Who's next?
Doug Peterson.
Okay, we're going to Doug Peterson next. Doug?
Okay, go to Joanne.
Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, please.
I filed most of my concerns by email, and I think most of the items have already been addressed. One of the things that I have concerns is that someone else mentioned, who will police this? Will the municipality be responsible for ensuring that if this application was approved, that it would be restricted to 4 sites in the future? And as we all know, a zoning change like this is transferable to a new owner. And, you know, does this open up a floodgate? The other things that are mentioned, I would repeat, it's fire control, sanitation. How's that going to be managed? We're in a property that's right next door to this, and fire is, for the last 50, 60 years, has been a major concern, as someone else has mentioned. There's no running water down there, as far as we know. And you know, that's always a concern that we have with so much, you know, open bush in that area. And I just think that this is a very broad application, and it's going to be very difficult to monitor exactly what the applicants are doing, or if they make changes to their business model, who's going to be monitoring and policing that. Are restrictions going to be in place as far as what kind of camping, what kind of RV vehicles, how are they managing waste? There's just a lot of details that don't seem to be addressed in this really broad application. And I think the municipality needs to be very concerned about future liability, as someone else mentioned. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doug. We'll go to Joanne Iob next. Joanne?
Hi, thank you very much for allowing us to speak. My husband, Michael, and I are both opposed to the rezoning also, and for all the same reasons that everybody has stated before. But the first and foremost is that we already have 2 existing large campgrounds that the lake that are on the lake, and that the people at those campgrounds are able to come down and enjoy the lake also. So that's probably the really big concern. Both of those campgrounds are on the Olmsted Lake portion. And it is a very narrow and shallow lake. So that is a concern for all the environmental parts that we've already been hearing. The concern also is, again, 4 sites, you know, in 20 years will not be 4 sites anymore. It'll be larger. Whether the intent is there on this year, there's no saying it won't be there in 20 years, especially if ownership changes. So I, you know, the 4 sites is not, even though it seems like a small amount, I think is a concern. I know over on Garden Lake, which is not in our township, but is important, there had been a campsite wanting to go in there, and they deemed that lake was small to house and support campground. well, we've got already 2 large ones on ours. So adding a third one, I think is certainly not healthy for our lake. Again, with other people that have spoken, we've been on the lake. I've been here at the lake for the 62 years I've been alive. And my father had been on the lake since he was 3 years old, coming to the lake. So we've got a long-standing relationship with the lake, and would like to see, it continue to be a healthy lake. So that is part of our concerns. So in closing, we are opposed. And thank you once again for letting us speak.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go on to Tara Dobek.
Thank you very much, Council, for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I do have a short description, just visual, that I would like to share. I'm wondering if the sharing screen function can be enabled for me, so I'm able to demonstrate with some photograph exactly what the concerns are.
Okay, give us a sec.
I had it smaller so I could read my email. I wonder if she's going to have a picture of the bear.
I believe it should be on now.
Yes, it's on now.
Perfect. So just to sort of place us, we are 165B Pinewood Park Road. Our property was bought by my grandparents back in 1952. And in 2015, we were able to rebuild our property. Our property is uniquely situated in relation to this bylaw amendment. When the application was sent out, or the notice of application was sent out, the description of it actually includes our property, which has created a lot of mental anguish for my mother. She has had to speak to a number of the individuals on the lake and assure them that we are not seeking the bylaw amendment, despite the description of the land, including our property. So I want to make that very crystal clear that this is not something that 165B is in support of, or has requested, or has any interest in whatsoever. Our property is this foot, which you can see on the screen. It's a peninsula. It hangs off the end of 165A, and our access to our property can only be achieved by traveling on a deeded access road through 165A. Our understanding of the application is, as people have indicated, that they're looking for these 4 camping sites. And we have received this sketch from the municipality that I understand was provided by the applicants as to what this application would entail. We have a lot of concerns that have been already displayed by other individuals, but with regards to the specific map that has been provided, it is so basic as to be frankly useless. There are 4 sites that are roughly marked. The map does not indicate where any of the other buildings on the property are located. And given where the campsites were existing last year, we have major concerns that these 4 sites that they're proposing are not in the sites they're actually going to be using. Last year, we were aware of a campsite that was being run illegally right next to our property, which is demonstrated in the purple on the screen. You'll see it's right next to our property. That purple site doesn't seem to be on their map they've currently provided. And we're aware that they have also done clearing of land that's roughly equivalent to where the red line is on this screen. And again, that area does not seem to appear on their map. And it appears as though it has been cleared for the purposes of creating a campsite. Our road access is a major concern if there is any sort of change to the bylaw concerning 165A. Our road access is shown approximately by the yellow mark on the screen. You will see that it goes completely through 165A. We have no other road access. We are the only property that is located along that road access. And the campsites that were used last year utilized this road access. They blocked our ability to reach our property. They would have blocked the ability for any emergency vehicle to attend our property. We have extraordinary concerns with regards to fire. Frankly, if a fire was to break out at one of those campsites, we would be stuck on our property with no means of escape. Not only would that cause risks to our lives, but it would completely engulf our property. There would be no way fire would be able to attend to us. We have specific concerns that are a little different than a lot of the other individuals on the lake. Since the illegal campsites began operation last year, for whatever reason that I do not understand, Martin Robillard, who seems to be the spouse of the applicant, has launched a campaign to terrorize us, quite frankly. He has created a situation where it's been extremely troubling for us to attend our own property. Turning 165A into a camping establishment would extremely impair the property value of our property. And as indicated, numerous campers that were attending that illegal campsite that was allowed to run last year continually trespassed onto our property, not only themselves, but their animals as well. We have other concerns that I won't go through a lot because I think they've been touched on a lot by other people who have spoken, but we are very much aware of what the road access onto that property is, and there is no way that it is up to the Whitewater region policy standards. We have concerns given the attitudes of the property owner, indicating that he will not allow Bylaw to attend the property for inspections. The application itself lacks specificity, and we have major concerns about how this is going to be policed. As indicated, it's asking for 4 sites, but there's no indication of how many campers are going to be allowed to be on those sites, how many trailers, how many tents, how large these sites are. Are these sites able to be moved? Does 4 sites mean there's 100 campers at each site? None of these things have been determined. And so we are very much concerned about how compliance is going to be monitored. To give an idea of what happened last year, we became aware that Martin Robillard had started a illegal campground site using the Hip Camp web app with North Star Camp and Ride. On that site, he indicates that he had 2 sites and they were allowed to bring trucks, vans, campers, trailers, and he was allowing campfires. He also indicated that he would abide by COVID protocols. Joanne Blumley also was operating under Hip Camp. She was operating under the name of North Star Camping. She also indicated that she would abide by COVID protocols. Her site had 5 sites, so it seems they were running 7 illegal campsites last year. She was also allowing campers, trucks, trailers, RVs, allowing campfires. Of note, those campsites looked like they started at the end of May of last year. Here is a review that was posted on the Hip campsite indicating on May 23rd, individuals were camping at that site. That should be noted that that would have been during the COVID lockdown. Pinewood Park and Yonder Hill were closed during that time frame because they were abiding by the COVID protocols. Hip Camp itself indicates that they have certain rules and expectations of their hosts. However, it's clear that the property in question was not abiding even by those standards. They were allowing fires in contravention of fire restrictions. This is a photo that had been posted on North Star Camping as a review. showing that there is a fire pit on that property, and we could see fires from that fire pit numerous times last year. And I understand from the fire department last year, there was no permit that had been issued for those fires. This is a screenshot from Martin Robillard's Facebook page from 2020, indicating some of the fires he's had on that property in the past that are way larger than anything you would be able to get a fire permit for. HIP Camp has no limit to the number of campers. That is to be determined by the host. HIP Camp does expect their hosts to be good community members and to think of their neighbors when they're opening a HIP Camp site, such as shared road access, which certainly was not done last year. And they also expect their hosts to abide by the law. We know that didn't happen because we know that the property in question received 2 notices from Whitewater Region indicating they were infringing the bylaw last year. They continued to operate despite those notices. As indicated, we're very much concerned about the attitude that Martin Robillard has displayed since opening this illegal campsite. Last year, he posted a Facebook post indicating that he would not allow Bylaw onto his property without a warrant. We have messages from Joanne Blumley from her Facebook indicating that if anybody trespasses on her property, such as a bear, she will use her gun. And last year, we had a bear left on the entrance to our property. We have had Martin Robillard's tractor block our entrance to our property. We've been unable to attend. And just this past couple of weeks ago, Mr. Robillard approached our vehicle with a firearm. We have been intimidated by the owners of the property.
Okay, Joanne, we're running out of time here. Can you wrap it up, please?
Absolutely.
Sorry, Tara.
And so thank you very much for listening to the concerns of 165B.
Okay, thank you. Who's next? Okay, now we're going to somebody from the public. Gail? Gail, do you wish to speak?
I'm here because I'm the president of the Lake Association. You did say this.
You have to come up to the mic, please. Yes. You know the drill. You got to be heard. Got to be heard. Just push the button so it's green.
Oh, great. Perfect. So as the president of the Olmsted Jeffrey Lake Association, you have heard many of the concerns that were expressed to me, mostly about the 2 campsites already existing on the lake, the quality of the water being maintained, the impact of having extra traffic on the lake, all of those things, the algae around us. Muskrat Lake is a concern, as Debbie said, Colton Lake is a concern, and they all join in at some point. So many of the concerns that people had were with what happens now? What do we do as an association to make sure that we have something in place to say, okay, maybe this is a problem and maybe it isn't. But that's why we asked for a lakeshore capacity assessment. And if that's not possible, and I see in the report that, it may not be warranted because of the size of the development, but there are other assessments. And we are asking that the township really consider that, because we do want to make sure that we're able to maintain our beautiful little lake. We love where we live, and no one, and as people said, as they were speaking, they have invested their life savings. They have had generations of family who have lived on the lake. They want generations of family to continue to live on the lake, and we really, really want to ensure that we can have a safe spot for our children to swim and play and enjoy. And we really just want to make sure that things are are able to be maintained, and that people around the lake feel comfortable that we've done everything possible to make sure that things are in place. If the development goes ahead, then we want to make sure that it's done in a very, in a manner that is on the up and up, and that no one is feeling as though someone is being taken advantage of, that the lake quality and the environment is being maintained. So really, I did already submit my comments in written form, and I'm just reiterating that we have had, as you know from the emails that you received, many concerns expressed, many along the same lines that you heard tonight, and I'm glad that you took the opportunity to hear them all.
Great, thank you. Can you turn your mic off, please? Oh, keep it open. Well, I'll turn it off. The other two ladies in the gallery, did you wish to speak? No, good. Okay, Joanne, did you want a rebuttal? Yes. Okay, can you come up to the microphone, please?
She didn't speak.
And push the button from red to green, please.
Thank you. And just for clarification, my name is not Joanne Bromley. It is Joanne Blomley. I am one of the rare BL, not BR. And firstly, I would like to thank the Mayor and Council for allowing me the opportunity to speak in support of this zoning amendment application to allow for 4 green campsites on my property. In 2021, we affiliated ourselves with a company known as HipCamp, but that's already been made clear to you. 2021 marked the first year HipCamp was open in Canada to assist and provide for private land use camping. And for interest's sake, we never had 7 or 9 sites. We had 5, although Mart and I both had a page on Facebook. We both used the same sites. There wasn't duplication. And HipCamp provides all of the liability insurance for every camper. Due to the impressive surge of interest in camping during the pandemic and the subsequent decreased availability of provincial campgrounds, we decided to offer up our beautiful property so that others might experience the beauty and diversity the Ottawa Valley has to offer. To say it was a resounding success would underscore the people's overwhelming satisfaction with their experience. Excuse me, how amazing it was for children after months of being cooped up to be able to swim in a clean freshwater lake and sleep under the stars, experiences every child should be able to have. And as small as we were, true to the mandate of the province to promote tourism for commercial development, their dollars were spent here. Some of these people, and they came from all over Ontario, had never been in our area and fell in love with what we as a county have to offer, and they will be back. I appreciate all of the input received over this zoning request, and I trust I can allay some of the concerns. At this point, I would add we are willing and fully intend to comply with all of the township's bylaws pertaining to this venture. My page on HipCamp allows me the freedom to stipulate what is permissible during their stay. My most important message is that of respect of my land and the sensibilities of others. To that end, although no noise bylaw presently exists in our region, I specify no excessive noise at any time and nothing after 10 p.m. All garbage is taken away by the campers to be disposed of elsewhere. We do not allow anyone to bring a motorized watercraft. We do not have or intend to have a boat launch. People are permitted to bring kayaks and canoes only. Personally, I strongly believe any motorized boat should not be allowed on the lake because of the detrimental environmental impact they have. There are far too many boats on our lake given its size. Again, I stress this is green camping. We have built an outhouse and we push potable water 1,200 feet to hydrants easily accessible to our campers. Parking is available at each site. My farm boasts an impressive 2,300 feet of pristine, untouched shoreline, and I intend to keep it that way. It isn't I who erode the shoreline. It wasn't me who filled in several hundred feet of swamp in order to sever a lot to put yet another permanent home on the lake. My farm is teeming with an abundance of wildlife, and we strive to maintain and support all of the flora and fauna. To that end, in the past 5 years, we have planted over 7,500 trees on our farm, 2,700 of them not just 2 weeks ago. This modest venture brings in a small amount of revenue to allow us, who are mere the temporary custodians, to maintain this diversified and one-of-a-kind property, my personal piece of paradise. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. So that ends our public aspect of this. Pass it back to Rob for closure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So all the comments, either written or in person, or any comments that are received before a decision of council is made will form part of the public record. We expect that the planner's follow-up report will follow in June. We have a meeting on June 1st and June 22nd, so it will be at one of those two meetings. And at that time, council will be able to debate the matter and make a decision, and then notice of decision will follow for anyone that's commented or participated in the public meeting and anybody within the radius for a zoning application. As noted in the staff report, from the contract planner, there are a number of studies that are likely required, and site plan control would also likely be required. But again, the planner will come forward with their recommendation on approval or refusal and any conditions that might apply at one of the two meetings in June. So, just thanks for it's good to have people in the galleries despite COVID, and it's great to have people online. So it's always great when people participate in public meetings and we hear from people, and it's to be continued. And agendas, as noted, are posted at least 48 hours in advance. So the follow-up report from the planner will be coming to one of those two meetings in June.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll move on to 4.3, Cobden Water Treatment Plant.
We just have to vote on the motion to receive. Yep.
Priorities. Okay, we have to vote on the motion. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Now we move on to 4.3, Cobden Wastewater Treatment Plant update. Just go to Lane.
Thank you. Tonight we have Andrew Mcdonald and Jason Schultz from JP2G. They're going to present an update to the Cobden wastewater plant. Go ahead, Jason.
And Mr. Mayor, Jason, just sorry to interrupt, but for those that were here for the public meeting, you can stay, but you may also go. So Joanne, Tara, Debbie, Wenzels, and the Andersons just want to so.
Okay. Thank you, Council, for letting us attend and give you an update on the Whitewater treatment sewage plant. For the last number of years, it's been under construction. We're going to give you a status update of where it stands today and where it's in the future. I can share my screen, I guess. We have a PowerPoint presentation here.
Okay, you should be good to go if you can click on the right. There we go.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, we can see it. You're good. You're good to go.
Okay. So this status update as of April 26th last week of where we stand with the project. Construction phase is it's been substantially complete. The process equipment startup and commissioning has been completed. Raw sewage was directed into the new facility as of November 18th, 2021. For the commissioning period. Throughout that commissioning period, to ensure that the water was being treated to MOE standards, it was directed through the existing plant throughout the commissioning period and monitored throughout the whole process for effluent flows. During the commissioning, we were quite pleased with what the effluent outcome was. Far exceeded what the MOE guidelines require. All processed sewage effluent being discharged as of November 29, 2021, which met the MOE requirements. At that point, we took down the existing facility and made some modifications and upgrades to the existing facility. Currently, the contractor continues to work on deficiency items and all the civil works that couldn't be completed through the winter are going to be scheduled for mid-May. Image on the right here is a photo within the facility showing the 2 treatment trains, aeration trains, and the MBR treatment trains. Budget update on contract. The original contract amount was $10.98 million with a contingency included in that number of $400,000. Cash allowance for concrete testing, soil compaction testing, whatnot, of $30,000. Hydro transformer of $15,000, and the cash allowance for a substance survey of the existing building to ensure there was no asbestos and lead in there as it did work. The value completed to date, that's the holdback that's being retained currently, is $9.4 million. It's been paid out. The current statutory holdback as of last week is just over $1 million, as you can see. That holdback is scheduled for release May 19th, when the 45-day waiting period is over from the substantial completion date. O&M manual holdback that's being retained. That retainage is to ensure that the contractor submits all of the manuals for operations and the equipment that's been installed to the facility for future use of the operations and maintenance periods. The maintenance security holdback being retained of $259,800 will be retained for a period of 1.5 years to ensure that any maintenance that has to get taken care of over that time frame will be taken care of by the contractor. And this is on holdback in case the contractor decides to walk and not proceed with their contract. So again, balance of contracts, including holdbacks right now, is $1.496 million. The image on the right is a look at the MBR tank. This is where the membranes that filter the water before it goes out to the effluent. It doesn't look very pretty right now, but if you're on site and you're seeing it, the outcome, it looks like drinking water. That's how clear this process works. Continuing on budget, the approved change orders and allowances to date. There was $508,000 of change orders approved, leaving us with a cost overrun on the contingency of $108,000. All the concrete testing has pretty much been spent on the project. The substance surveys allowance was spent. The hydro allowance was not spent on the project. The township took care of the hydro transformer outside of the contractor, so this number here will not be paid out in the contract. This image here shows at the end of the process, like I mentioned earlier, the effluent water is clear. This is the outcome of what comes out of the water in the end of the process. It's just a dark consistency of like a beach sand. This goes to the dump facility for spreading and overcoverage. Maintenance security operations manual and statutory holdback update. Like I said earlier, the maintenance security holdback will be held for 1.5 years from substantial completion, which was attained on March 21st, 2022. The operations manual holdback, as previously mentioned, is there's 15% remaining on that, and that's just to ensure that the last remaining pieces of the operation manuals get submitted. The statutory holdback that's scheduled to be released on May 19th will be fully released upon the contractor providing us with all the requirements of the operations manual, all the as-built, the commissioning reports, and if they're not, we have a 4% of the original contract that we will hold back, and it's prorated for each item, which we'll see next. So on the right-hand side, you'll see the breakdown of the 4% holdback on the substantial holdback if all those items are not submitted to us. We've held the commissioning report at a value of $55,000, the final maintenance manuals at a value of $165,000, and the final approved as-built at a value of $221,000. These values are arrived just basically, again, to ensure that the contractor does their duty and provides us with everything we need so that ourselves as the engineers do not have to go and do this, and the owner doesn't have to chase things down and provide further burden to the taxpayers. Schedule update, as mentioned in previous, substantial is complete as of March 21st. Commissioning was completed on November 29th. The existing clarifier tank upgrades were completed of February of this year. Scheduling delays from the original contract completion, which was originally supposed to be on October 31st of 2020. A few weather days, not many. The biggest delays were the rock blasting and excavation, where the rock encountered, which is a different elevation than what the contractor anticipated. We had shown it on our drawings where it was, but it was also a lot harder rock and dense than what they were used to, so they had to have more drilling. And of course, the COVID-19 delays. Numerous times the crews contacted COVID, so they had to shut their site, and other times where not too many workers were allowed to work on site due to the restrictions. Future use of the existing plant. This is a report we provided to Lane on the existing plant. With the new plant in operation and running very efficiently, there's some options we've provided for use of the existing plant. The new plant meets current demand and anticipated community growth through 2036 per the environmental study report that was completed during the design process of the new plant. Some work needed to commission the old plant would be very minor as far as sanitary goes. We would just need to reroute the control building sanitary to the new plant. Advantages of decommissioning the plant. There's a significant cost to hydros right now with the current blowers for the existing system. I can't remember what the number are, but it's a very large cost per month. Lane could update you on that. This avoids the cost of upcoming refurbishments to any aged equipment within the clarifier. The existing clarifier, the system itself has been there since day one when the first plant was built, and there's no more manufacturer for that particular equipment. All the equipment in there would have to be manufactured and by an individual outside, go in there, measure and everything up like that to retrofit. It frees up equipment within the existing plant. There's some pumps in there that would be able to be freed up as spares to be able to use in the new facility on the shelf just in case of breakdowns. Advantages of keeping the old plant. The existing plant could be used for septic dumping. Currently, there's other facilities use that. It's not very cost effective or favorable at this time. I know that some people also, they see it as spread on farmers' fields, but I think that's going to be coming to an end soon. The existing plant can be used to hold sludge or handle very high wet weather flows in the case of springtime flows. This past spring, the high flow period, they did not direct anything to the existing plant. Everything came through the new plant and it handled the flows quite well, not reaching anywhere near what the full capacity of the plant was. Mind you, this year was a lower flow according to plant operations from what previous years have seen. But with our numbers and our design and what we see, we don't foresee any issues with future flows. We recommend operating the plant as it currently sits for 6 months to confirm new plant sludge and dewatering is handling the loads properly. And then at that point, the township could make a decision on what they'd like to do with the existing plant. That's all for my presentation on this. I'm have any questions for myself to ask, or Andrew Mcdonald, who is he's the process specialist on this project.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Questions from council? Councillor Mackay, I think you were first.
I just want to know about that waste. How much would you say tonnage would you take to the landfill a year?
Andrew, do you have the numbers for that?
There, I found it. I do have I have seen in our, I do have that number actually. We have, I don't have it easily at hand. Okay, so with the design report that we submitted with, as part of the environmental study report, we had a figure in there.
Sorry, and just before, so with the weight scales, we actually do track the sludge separately, which we can bring back in our quarterly report. We've asked asked Steve to break out in a quarterly report how many our tonnages, and we can include the sludge for that, just so council's aware.
That would be a better number.
Yeah.
Than our estimate from 2017. So yeah.
It
is a minimal amount. It's like 3 or 4 of those tandem dumping trailers per week. It's a minimal quantity.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, just wondering if we have any early reports about capacities. So new plant versus old. So I know the old plant was operating at a capacity of, 70, 80%. And then on the overflows, we were operating at like 110, 120% sometimes. So just wondering do we have any early readings on where our average operating capacity is at? And then you did mention that it was able to handle overflows. So were we nearing anywhere near maximum capacity?
So this would be the existing plant average flows experienced previous to any of the work that we've done to build the new plant. Is that what you're looking for?
So yeah, I'm kind of aware of where the old plant. Sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by existing, meaning new.
The original plant, I guess.
Yeah. So the original plant versus new plant. Do we know? Or did we achieve any efficiencies?
In terms of flows handled, the original plant, I can tell you, was rated to 696 cubic meters a day average flow, and we experienced on average we were experiencing around 750 cubic meters a day flow. So that kind of triggered the entire project and process of increasing. And there is a list of bypasses that were occurring during wet weather events. So that again triggered studies to try and reduce infiltration inflow into the collection system coming to the plant. But also there was recognition that we had to go to the bigger plant. So the new plant average day flow is 1,000 cubic meters per day. And that's to accommodate population growth out to 2036. And also, so it's not a direct comparison because the old treatment standards are 15 milligrams per liter for CBOD and total suspended solids. But the new treatment effluent standards are a lot more strict, so that they bring them down to 5 milligrams per liter. So we're doing more and we're treating it a lot better. So it's a little bit harder to compare to the old plant conditions.
It just does. I'm not that smart to follow all of that. So what percentage capacity would the new plant be running at? So the old one, it was rated 692, but we were operating at 750. So it was over capacity. I get that. So are we still operating at 750, or just give me a percentage of where we're operating at right now?
Yeah. So we were talking to the operators that we got 1,600 cubic meters per day peak. That was our worst peak so far this wet spring melt. The plant, each train can do 2,500 cubic meters a day. So we're like 60% or whichever of one train. So we're doing pretty well there, though. Yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that. Is that the number you're looking for?
I just missed. I heard you say a percent, but I missed what the percent was.
Oh, probably 60%-ish.
So we're running at
Do you-
60% of total capacity of the plant on average.
Yeah. What I would like to do is get the updated flow numbers that have been coming in, because that was as of early March this year.
Right.
So through March and April, I could probably get a much better idea.
Sure, anything as recent as you can get. And I understand that we're spring and you're at high flows and stuff now, so I just want to know where, as a percentage, where are we now versus where were we?
And so if I can add, and one thing we will bring back in 6 months is an update of report for what the old plant, what we're going to do with it.
Yeah.
And even in the quarterly report, won't be this one, but in the next quarterly report, we can attach to it the average daily flows are, and what's the plant capacity, and we'll show a percentage then.
Yeah, we like, listen, we don't need numbers now, but I think at council, I may be alone on this, but I'm thinking, we just want to know what percentage capacity we're running at, and do we have capacity, or are we still close? We spent.
Okay, I see what you mean. I think that's a much better approach. I'll get the exact numbers to help give you that idea of, where your capacity is, what capacity you've got left for the long term as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lane kind of said what I was going to say. These are flow numbers we need from Aqua to answer your questions specifically. But we've gone from 696 cubic meters per day treatment capacity to 1,000, but with a hydraulic capacity of about 5,000, because each train will handle 2,500 cubic meters. I've seen flows at the plant over the years well over 2,000 cubic meters per day. And when that happens, because the old plant had a hydraulic capacity of 2,200 cubic meters per day, you would bypass. You'd put raw sewage into the lagoon. I don't foresee that happening anytime with the new plant. I think it's going to handle the flows. We've already shown that it can. And it can, even though it has a hydraulic capacity of 5,000 cubic meters per day, if our flows in the spring, during spring freshet, if they rise above, let's call it 2,300 cubic meters per day, the new plant will actually still treat that for a short duration, not long-term. So the new plant is, in terms of capacity, I think we're in very, very good shape.
Any other questions? Councillor McLaughlin.
Okay, and I don't know who can answer this, but the operating manuals for the plant, whose responsibility is it to create the operating manuals, or do we have manuals, and who has them, and like, does Aqua have them, or who has them?
Draft. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so they've delivered a set of binders that goes to the site, and they'll have it at Aqua's hands at all times on site. It includes all the equipment manuals within it and the maintenance manuals within that. Then there's a separate manual, which is called the operations manual. That operations manual is developed between our engineers throughout the design and the actual suppliers of the equipment on how it operates in hand with each other as it goes through the sequence. And that's been created. It'll be submitted in a binder as well. And then on top of that, there's an electronic version that the township will have on hand, as well as two electronic tablets that'll be at the facility that the operators have the operation manual and all the other manuals included on it.
Well, that answers my question very thoroughly. Thank you so much. I just wondered where whose responsibility it was for the manuals, and where they were. So obviously, as long as we have we will have access to them at any point.
Yes.
I can see that. And I had one more question. We were talking about the sludge, and you talked about it being cover. Is that correct? So if it's cover, it really has nothing to do with the capacity in the landfill because we're using it for cover. Am I wrong on my assumption?
The dewatered sludge is we're able to use it for cover, but quite honestly, we don't get enough of it to cover any garbage with. So
what you're telling me,
what's coming
Stephen,
in is so minimal. There's no advantage to covering garbage with it.
There's no advantage, so, and it's really not taking up any of our space.
No,
I think that was one of the concerns was, are we using space? So we're not actually using it for using up any space at all with the disposal.
A minute amount.
Okay, well, no, that's music to my ears. I like that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question. You mentioned it, Jason, about electronic version, whether it be tablets, etc. Do we have proper security on them so that we can't have cyber busters come in and empty our plant or whatever it is they do down the States? I've seen reports on. Cybersecurity, I guess.
Touch base on what they've done at the plant facility there.
Are we covered, cybersecurity and all that, on the new system?
For the SCADA itself, that's behind its own firewall, and remote access is limited to the Aqua network for that. But the iPad itself, for the operation manual that they'll be walking around with, I'm not sure how they actually limit internet access with those. It's a detail I'd have to find out.
Yeah, well, the tablets won't probably have any internet access for them. They're more just as a holding for the manual so that the operators can walk around the plant with the manual in their hands. Because like I said earlier, the binders that were delivered, there's 7 full binders that are about 4 inches thick that hold all the documents of the equipment and such in it. And there'll be another manual coming with the actual plant operations, which should be about an inch thick or so. What Andrew was referring to about the firewall, and I'm sure maybe this is what you're referring to yourself, Mayor, is cyber attackers coming in and shutting the plant down or doing something that way. And that's where he's saying there's a firewall in place that they cannot come in and actually shut the plant down that manner.
Great, that's what I wanted to know. So I guess keeping with that then, is there something in the future that maybe we should plan on in upgrading the cybersecurity at some point?
I can add that, sorry. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, the actual SCADA is not connected to the internet. Only time it is when for updates or for remote access from the companies. But I believe this is through discussion with Aqua that they don't allow physical connection all the time to the internet for that reason. And it's only when
that's right.
Yeah, it's only when a supplier needs to update or anything they'll physically plug in, and only for the time period of that.
Okay, thank you. Answered my question.
Yeah.
Councillor Mackay.
Yeah, my question goes to Steve. With that sludge, does it have smell or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know when places take the methane out of their liquid manure, it doesn't smell as bad.
That's actually hydrogen sulfide. Methane's odorless. Hydrogen sulfide is what you smell out of their manure.
Okay.
And landfill gases are typically hydrogen sulfide, although the biggest landfill gas is methane, but you can't smell it. But yes, this dewatered sludge has a high odor. Yes.
All right. Well, lucky for you then.
Okay, anyone else? Councillor Nicholson?
Yeah, I love the discussion. I just want to focus for a second, though, on the future use of the existing plant. And I just want to understand the recommendation. They're asking us that the staff or the contractor, JP2G, is putting forward about decommissioning or keeping the old plant. I just want to be clear. They made a recommendation in here to operate it for 6 months to confirm the new plant sludge dewatering is handling loads. Is that part of this motion? Is that a separate motion, or how are we handling that recommendation, Mayor?
It's, through you, Mr. Mayor, it's not a recommendation at this time, so they're going to monitor that. And as Steve and Lane said, they'll be providing some additional data through the consultants in the quarterly report, and then we'll come back with a recommendation once they've monitored the situation. So that will be a follow-up report by staff. This is really just for information purposes on essentially that the construction's done and they're just monitoring the process at this time.
Yeah, no, perfect. If I could add, Mayor. No, that makes sense. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. The comment I'd like to make is that when that report comes back, the first comment that's in there about the advantages of keeping the old plant and the need for septic to be handled, I think that is a strategic thing that we need to keep on our agenda. The number of septic tanks that we're permitting in the township as we grow is continuing to increase. That septic waste has to go somewhere. And at this point in time, that is being handled by other parties. And at some point in time, we have an environmental responsibility to deal with it. This may be a tool for us to deal with it, and I think it has to be part of that strategic discussion. Do we want to get rid of it and then have to create something in the future? Could we hold on to this and use it possibly to bridge the gap? I don't know, but that needs to be part of that discussion, or at least I recommend it is. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none? Thank you, Jason, and your counterpart. We appreciate you coming to bring us up to date. Very informative, and thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to item 5, announcements. Reeve Gear.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Councillor Olmsted.
I have nothing.
Councillor McLaughlin.
Just one thing, the library board are having a Mother's Day draw, and tickets are available all around, so I would encourage people to go out, buy some tickets. Maybe you'll be lucky and support a great cause. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mackay.
Yeah, I just want to announce that Bork is putting on the Spring Chicken. That's the race. They have a 60-kilometer race. There's about 200 guys registered, so there should be 500 or 600 people leaving from the fairgrounds and meeting back at the fairgrounds.
Okay, thank you. That's good news that
Yeah.
we're getting back to somewhat normal.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, I've got a couple here, Mayor. Just a couple. First, on the Whitewater Seniors Home Support and Active Living, we had a lunch here in Cobden yesterday. 27 participants, which was our max for that facility. So it even had a waiting list. And we had some great feedback from the participants, not only about the activity that occurred yesterday, but in the fact that it's being held in a number of different locations across the township, making it more available to those seniors in those locations. Just a reminder to the members of council, you are always invited. The next two events are May 9th in Beachburg and Friday, May 13th at Haley United Church. In total, there'll be another 7 events this month in May. They range from social opportunities, information opportunities, training, and meals. If you want the full schedule, it's on the Facebook and on our website. The pilot also received a donation yesterday of a new bench that is now located, or will be located shortly, in front of the building. And we just wanted to publicly thank Don and Tom Farnell and the Lions Club out of Beachburg for donating this bench that we can use at the front of the current pilot location. The second point has to do with the flood recovery from the flood of 2019, which feels like yesterday. We hit another goalstone. Our flood recovery committee that we have ongoing in the community has had its last resident move back into their home as of the 1st of May. So it was very nice to see Uzziah Horst recognized as one of our volunteer recipients. He was a key member in a number of flood recovery activities, including helping this individual gain access back into a home. So those are the announcements. Thank you, Mayor.
That's great news. Nice to know that we're into another flood season and one's just ending. Pardon? Councillor Mackay.
I think we should all thank Neil Nicholson for the good job he did on that flood and worked very hard. We all know that.
Good too.
Yep.
I hope you never have to go through it again.
There's a whole team. Thank you, Councillor Mackay. There is a whole team, Vince Jerva, Bonnie Johnson, Uzziah Horst. We had a mental health nurse, Rachel, out of Pembroke Regional Hospital. So it is a group effort. Yeah, thank you though.
Quite an undertaking, as we all learned. Okay, thank you. Now we move on to 6.1 reports. 6.1 recommendation, Freightliner Tandem Plow Truck Debenture. Recommendation that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region authorize a debenture bylaw for the Freightliner Tandem Plow Truck. Motion and a seconder, please. Councillor McLaughlin and Reeve Rigier. This goes to Sean, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is the second bylaw to our tandem plow truck debenture. So the interest rate that we're locked into is 3.35%. It's a 5-year term. Annual payments are just north of $65,000. With that, I'm to present to you your annual repayment limit or updated annual repayment limit. And that's just under $840,000. So what that means is we, according to Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, we still have $840,000 of annual interest and principal payments that we could have put towards debt. So with the passing of this bylaw, documents will be couriered tomorrow to our lawyers, and then I believe on May 16th we will be in receipt of the funds, and then we'll begin paying the funds back. I think the first payment is in September or October. I can't quite recall, but it's later on this year. With that, I'll turn it back to the mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. 6.2, tile drain loan. Recommendation that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the tile drain loan application for James B. Bowman in the amount of $22,200 for approximately 8 hectares at 1606 Kerr Lane. Motion and a seconder, please. Councillor McLaughlin and Councillor Mackay. Thank you. This goes to Carmen.
So you've seen these many times before. This is a tile drain loan from, or an application from Mr. Bowman. As you know, a tile drain loan program provides loans to agriculture property owners to help them finance drain projects. All tile drain loans have a 10-year repayment, which are made on their tax rolls every year. The loans are only eligible for 75% of the value of the tile drain, and we charge 6% interest. So Mr. Bowman is asking for 75% of the cost of $29,600, so he's looking for $22,200. We also include $300 for our inspector to inspect the work. So once the application is approved by council, he does the work, submits his receipts. We have the inspector go check it, and then it goes to the treasurer for processing. So, any questions? Yeah.
Any questions?
It's pretty straightforward.
Councillor McLaughlin?
And I probably missed this, and Carmen's already said, but what is the interest rate, Carmen? Is it a set rate?
It is. It's 6%.
6%. It's been 6% for quite a while, has it not? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I once again missed that.
Thank you. Councillor McLaughlin. Councillor Mackay? You had your hand up? No? Okay, sorry. It was Councillor Nicholson.
3. First one, and I don't know who can answer it, but does the tile drain inspector, I don't remember what the title of this, does he inspect all tile drain installations or just those that are done through this program?
Oh, okay. No, I was going to actually say probably Lynn can answer that. I believe he mostly does, for this program, we have him just for like tile drain loans, but municipal drains might be a little different. And Lane, I don't know if you...
Yes, for this tile loan, the inspector's only done the one that goes through this program. Yes, so for the one that, for any firm that goes through their own and finances their own tile, it has to be done by an approved tile contractor, but there's no inspector for that.
Just to add, we're basically inspecting to confirm the work happened so that they can get a check and we can charge interest. And to Lane's point, the installer is certified. So we're only involved from tile drainage when there's a loan. And because of the interest rate is so high and set by the province, I would say 90% of tile drains go in without our involvement at all.
Okay, good. Second question. And maybe I can get the treasurer, but I'm curious. I've seen similar programs, not through OMAFRA, but at other municipalities where they've used programs like this to finance other things that happen, where taxpayers, residents are allowed to make a purchase and then have it paid back over a number of years through their tax system. I'm just curious if if that is still available for us and if we can talk about it at another time.
We can for sure talk about it another time. Rob's, is CIP is maybe what you're referring to, or local improvement charges? I'm not quite certain, but maybe we can clarify. But if it's available and other municipalities are doing it, it's something that we can for sure look into.
And we have a FAQ we did on local improvement charges because we had a private road that people wanted to upgrade, and we basically said you'd all pay for it through a local improvement charge as an example. So I'll circulate that FAQ, but it would either be a CIP loan. We haven't done CIP loans, and local improvement charges need a certain level of support to happen. So there are possibilities, they're just difficult to achieve.
Okay, so I'll give you the example, and then and more for council to, if it registers for the future, is that the municipality, I think it was down east, they wanted everybody to convert from oil furnaces to some type of air exchanger. I've lost the name for it, but you know what I'm going to say. What's it called?
Ground source?
No, but it takes the air. It takes air source. Takes the heat out of the air. Anyway, it's an environmentally more friendly system for heating your home. And what they did is they offered their taxpayers the opportunity to make that purchase, and the township basically became the bank for them to pay it back over a number of years. So it was an environmentally friendly way to motivate that green opportunity. And I didn't know if we had the same opportunities to consider to try to offer to our residents if that became a strategic direction for the township.
At this point in time, I'm not familiar with any in Ontario, but it's something that I can look into and touch base with you.
Yeah. Like it just triggered it. The tile drain is exactly the same system, just through OMAFRA. But thanks, Mayor. I appreciate you letting me take that tangent.
Thank you. Councillor Mackay.
No.
You had your hand up and changed your mind?
It was a long time ago, I'm sorry to clear that.
Okay. Councillor McLaughlin, did you have your hand up?
No, I was going to say maybe Councillor Nicholson was thinking geothermal. No. Okay. Sorry, I thought maybe I could solve that.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Be interesting to see how they work. Okay, 6.3, server update. Recommendation that the Council of Township of Whitewater Region approve a sole source contract to Unserve Inc. for the upgrade of the server. Motion and a seconder, please. Councillor Mackay and Councillor McLaughlin, thank you. Carmen.
Unserve is our IT. They're our external support for IT services. Since 2019, they did note that our server is 5 years old and it is no longer they can no longer provide warranty or support for it. They can, but the cost of repairing it is obsolete. It's not worth it anymore. And also because of our growing needs due to digitalization, new software, storage requirements, updating our server just makes a lot of sense. It's also seen its useful life. We did budget $40,000 in reserve for the new server, and we did receive a quote from OnServe for $35,979.35. So if this is passed, I can contact OnServe and they can begin the work on it. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Swimming pool bylaw. Recommendation of the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region receive the draft swimming pool bylaw for the purposes of public consultation. Motion and a seconder, please. Councillor Mackay and Councillor Nicholson. Thank you. Back to Carmen.
Okay, as we know, it's very important that we can offer short form wording, so finding for our bylaws. Our swimming pool bylaw is one of those such bylaws that we do not have short form wording for. So this bylaw addresses fineage for pools that aren't in compliance, and we also addressed some of the fencing issues that we came across when we were trying to approve permits. So if there's any questions with this, I'll be happy to answer them too.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Now we move on to 6.5, Foresters Falls Multi-Use Pathway Project. Recommendation of the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region receive this report for information purposes as it relates to an update on the Foresters Falls Sidewalk and Boulevard project. Motion and a seconder, please. Councillor Mackay and Councillor Olmsted. Thank you. On the lane, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This project is in conjunction with the County of Renfrew. The county is doing the project within the urban boundary of Forester Falls. And then the township will be at the same time with the same contractor that the county will be tendering out. We believe it's going out tomorrow and closing at the end of the month. We'll be changing the sidewalks, and at the same time we'll be installing a multi-use pathway. So it's a 3-meter multi-use pathway. The challenge has been in the current configuration, if you can scroll down to the map, is that the poles are aligned halfway through the village, and then it changes sides. So a 3-meter pathway can't go from one end to the other end of the village due to the hydro poles. So staff have been working with Hydro One to get a price and to change 9 poles, which would show in the two configurations. One configuration, if we change the poles to the one side, there'd be a 3-meter pathway for the entire length, which the cost came in. The township cost that we would only pay the 50% of the labor, with $118,000, and then the additional cost for Bell was almost $15,000. So at this time, staff have directed the county to go ahead and tender out this project with 2 options. Option 1 would be to build a multi-use pathway for the entire length, and then the second option would be to have half the project on one side, and then change over with a PXO halfway through. And once the tender closes, staff would bring back a recommendation to proceed with option A or option B. Thank you.
Questions? Councillor Nicholson?
I like the approach, Lane. I think that's a good approach, especially if then we'll get to see the true costs between the cost of the PXO installation versus moving the utilities. Another factor, and I don't know if the Reeve has seen anything, but have we come to terms with what's going to happen with that bridge? Are we going to have access for pedestrians on that bridge that's going to be reconstructed? And if so, which side of the bridge is that going to occur on?
Yeah, so I think the current process, the EA for the county's project, is for replacement, and when that project will happen, we'll work with the county to provide a feature link as shown on the map out to the ball diamonds.
If I can just add, my preference, to be honest, is the last one, everything on the one side, and that's in keeping with the active transportation plan. Lane's giving you 2 options just in case you want to save money, but you're going to get one kick at this can, to be honest, and it's really going to shape the look and feel and the safety of Forster's Falls. And option 2 would mean that the multi-use pathway would be on one side, and hopefully the bridge, the culvert, it would be on that side, and then the existing sidewalk on the other side gets extended, and then hopefully it gets extended through the bridge, and then the connection through to the ball diamond. So what I've been encouraging staff is, if we have one kick at the can on doing this right for the next 25, 30 years, let's see what that costs. But I think the second option is much more in keeping with the active transportation plan, helps with the next phase of the county project, which is the culvert, and then over to the ball diamond, which we want to connect to from a safety perspective.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McLaughlin, you were first.
Oh, I'm going, whoa. I know for a fact that the ball diamond is not being used very much. I understand the traffic is for the playground that's at the, and maybe to be very cost efficient, maybe the playground could be moved to the village side of the bridge. But it's just, I just look at dollars and think of it that way. And looking at this, the option lane, I'm wondering if there could be, if we went with the option of both sides, that there be a pedestrian crosswalk put in to connect each side of the sidewalks, from like where they cross from one side to the other.
Yeah,
And-
that's, if you flip to the other map, it shows if it's on both sides that there'd be a, sorry, one up, sorry. Yeah, there'd be a future PXO at Howard Street to direct traffic from one side to the other side, and it's shown in the green at the past the post office. To the ball diamond, that would be a future project in conjunction with the county's next project, which is it's not part of this project.
No, my question is that bridge replacement is by the county, is that to happen this year?
No, it's not.
It's not? Okay. I guess I could have asked the Reeve that one and would have answered it as well. Okay, I wasn't sure. I thought, for some reason, I thought, but the road to the bridge is being refurbished. Is that correct?
That's correct. So this project is where they carried off from last year, I believe it was last year, to the village limits, to approximately to the dam bridge, which is just past the post office.
Just past the post office?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, probably much like Councillor McLaughlin, I'm through the village almost daily. And I think I was a young teenager the last time that this community got some love. So I think it's about time that we did do a service to the residents of Foresters Falls. And I agree with the CAO. I think if we're going to do it, let's do it right. This used to be a really vibrant community. A lot of you guys probably wouldn't remember that. I'm old enough to remember. This was a really bustling community, and it just seems to, over the years, that it just kind of got lost in the mix. But I think it's time we go back there and upgrade it. Let's put all the services on one side. A question that I had for you, I think, was just answered. So it's going to go from the town limits, like Coleman's Garage, to the post office.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, just past Coleman's Garage to the post office.
And so maybe, Reeve, is the next period of work going to take it from the post office down to the edge of Grant Settlement Road? Is that kind of the next scope? And that would be next year, my understanding?
I don't know if it'll be next year. I think it's 2000. I do believe it's 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Lane, is that correct?
The two projects, I think one project is the actual dam project,
Yeah.
which is separate than the next phase would that would continue to Coalsmith. And I don't have any hands on it, but I believe it's like, I think 2028 is the next phase, I believe, but I can find out and get back to you.
Great, thank you. If you could do me a favor and scrap all of the other options and just go with that other.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Now we move on to 6.6, Ontario Clean Water Agency Service Agreement Renewal. Recommendation that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the entering into a 2-year agreement renewal with the Ontario Clean Water Agency, or Aqua, commencing November 12, 2022. Motion and a seconder, please. Councillor Mackay and Reeve Regier, and this goes to Lane, please.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I'll take that.
Sure, Steve, thanks.
This is Lane's report, very well prepared. I'm just going to present it if that's okay. So the Ontario Clean Water Agency has been operating our 3 drinking water systems, are not just, well, when I say systems, I mean treatment and distribution, reference water, and our sewage treatment plant and our sewage collection system. And they also do a little bit of sampling for us at the Foresters Falls Library. They've been our accredited operating authority for, well, since 2013, with the first initial 5-year contract and then 2-year renewals following that. And the recommendation before you is to enter into another 2-year renewal. With being our accredited operating authority, the Ontario Clean Water Agency has to abide by a certain standard of care that's expected by the province and the users of the system as well. They operate under a fixed price or a cost plus agreement, and we've had a cost plus with them since 2013. It's for their purposes, it serves them better especially when we're looking at commissioning a brand new plant and getting it up and running, and the true costs of that new plant aren't known as of yet. Aqua employs, to take care of our plants out of the Madawaska cluster, they employ a compliance and process technician, a senior operations manager, and 3.6 operators. Their salaries, actually, out of the cost for the agreement, our cost, 43% of it is salary. So that's something an important point to keep in mind. Aqua's been exceptional and paramount in getting our new sewage plant up and running, working the bugs out of it from an operational perspective. I don't think we could have done it without them, to be honest with you. And they've included in Lane's presentation some information on fixed term, cost plus. And I would like to state again, you have to understand that a lot of these costs are direct costs. So if we choose to do this someday in-house, we just inherit those costs. So again, something else you have to keep that in mind. So that's the recommendation, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and perhaps Lane can help me answer questions as well.
Questions, Councillor Mackay.
Is the law says that if you have water problems, like you run your own water system, the councillors are liable, is that?
Correct.
So if we take care of it ourselves and we have a Walkerton problem.
We own the plants.
Yeah.
We are all accountable. Yeah, we own them.
I love Aqua, that's a great company.
Thank you for bringing that up. Councillor Olmsted.
So does the cost of operating have anything to do with number of hookups or consumption?
The cost of operating will be the capacity of the plants and indirectly the number of hookups and the capacity. It's chemicals, it's salary, it's electricity, it's all the administrative stuff that we don't do anymore. Compliance and the drinking water quality management standard is huge. That's a one-person job in itself. Did I forget anything, Lane? Those are just some of the main direct costs. Sludge haulage, which we're coming to an end. Now it's going to our landfill, which is fantastic. Can you think of anything else?
And the costs are indirectly I think a question is if we add more users to the system, will costs go up drastically?
Or down.
Oh, down. Yeah, no, cost for the plant, sorry. Then will the overall, more users be cost savings for the overall users for the system? The major of the costs, it's not staffing, it's the hydro costs, it's the chemicals being used. It's more based on the plants to run. And by adding more users and more flows, there would be an increase, but not drastic.
Great, so just economies of scale, the manpower is there, infrastructure is already there, a little bit more use in capacity or outflow, so cost could come down per user, sorry, per hookup is what I'm saying.
Yeah, potentially, yes.
Yep, great, thank you.
Thank you. Regier?
Thank you, Mayor, and I just want to reiterate that I would be in full support of this agreement renewal for sure. I think Aqua has done an outstanding job for us since 2013. I think Councillor McLaughlin will recall back in the day when we had our own operators and there were some definite challenges, and I would never want to see us go back. I think they do an outstanding job, and they're certainly worth everything that they provide to us, including peace of mind for all of us. Thank you.
Councillor Mackay.
I just want to know how you get 3.6 operators. Do you find like, we need the 0.6, get a guy about Mackay size, is that what you do for that, or?
And that's the advantage of Aqua. They manage across Ontario and then across Eastern Ontario and also the surrounding area. So the 0.4 would be split out for other facilities.
0.6 is what you're saying.
Councillor Nicholson.
If only he would use 0.6 of his time. Sorry, Councillor. No, I'll echo what the Reeves said. I think this is the right approach, and I think Aqua's a no-brainer. I'm sure there's at some point in time the size of the system or whatever, it would become economically reasonable for us to take it over as its own municipal department. But I don't think in our rural scenario we'll ever see that, and I think it's just smart use of our tax dollars in order to use an organization like this. So I just wanted to add that.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just add, staff did look at other options, but they would be very costly even to do a request for proposals, because you would have to hire somebody to do all the technical requirements to be able to say what you actually need. And then if we were to do an in-house bid, you would have to probably pay somebody to build an in-house bid. So if you need to hire somebody to do the technical requirements and you need to hire somebody to do the in-house bid, it probably tells you that this is way more complicated than we could handle on our own and would require significant staffing increases versus relying on Aqua that covers most of the municipalities in Renfrew County and can pull a number of resources. So we did look at that as options, but to be fair, those would be like anywhere probably in the $50,000 to $100,000 range to do that, and we don't feel that's a good use of money at this time versus when we're well served by Aqua.
I agree. If we were to take this over and start from scratch, then these numbers that Carmen has on her screen there wouldn't be factual, because we're going to have to hire people if Aqua doesn't, if they don't advocate from Aqua and come to work for us, we have to hire off the street. And these people have to be trained out the yin-yang. So I really don't think it would be advantageous. Councillor McLaughlin.
I probably have missed something. I know, Steve, you alluded to saying it's cost plus, but is there a percentage of the cost, the plus, or how do we?
I think what you're referring, well, what the plus means is at the end of each year, there's a reconciliation.
Okay.
So if we
Yes.
don't, if we don't use if they don't spend their budgeted amount, we get that. We get that back.
Okay.
And if I can just add, between the two different contracts, one would be an all-in price, so that they provide a price, and that would be it to run the facility. This one here, in the cost plus, that they provide a budget every year, what they expect the plant would cost, and if they go under that cost, we would see a refund, or if they went over, we would pay the additional.
Yeah, no, that clarifies a lot of it. Can I have a second question?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I want to also, like the Reeve said, because I was here when we decided to go with Aqua, and when we were down to 2 qualified operators running this 24/7, and the one thing that came to my mind is, what happens if something happens to one of our operators? This just gave me peace of mind that we don't have, this isn't our problem. It's their problem to staff it. And to say you're going to go off the street and try and get a qualified operator, that they're just not out there to get qualified operators. And if I was to start my career again, I would have not gone into the water processing that I did. I would have gone into this process. They're qualified, and to get the qualifications, it's you just don't get them off the street, and it does take quite a long time to get them qualified. So I'm quite happy with the peace of mind that we have operators to staff our facilities. With all the regulations, it just makes total sense. So I'll stop with that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Seeing none, call for vote. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Do we want to break now, Councillor Mackay? Are we good? Okay. Now we move on to notice of motion.
6.7.
Did I miss one?
Yeah.
Oh, darn. I'm trying to speed things up. 6.7, sale of land. Recommendation that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region declare the property legally described as part of lot 19, 20, 21, 22, and 24 on the Plan 49R-4397 surplus to the township needs, and authorize its sale to Susan Berg for the purpose of a lot addition. Motion and a seconder, please. Councillor Olmsted and Councillor Mackay. Goes to Carmen, please. I think.
So if you remember, at a meeting of February 3rd, 2021, council agreed to sell municipal held land to Susan Berg. She's the owner of 82 and 92, and I'm just trying to pull it up on the maps. Jordana Trail, and she wanted to purchase it to enlarge her existing parcels for the purpose of a construction. Do you see what?
72.
There we go. It's hard to see, but there we go. So the purpose of the transaction will to transfer parts 19 and 20, and I apologize, this map is kind of boopy and you can't really see it. I believe they might be here. To 90 Jordana Trail, and then parts 20, 21, and 22 to 82 Jordana Trail. The agreed price was $7,500 for both parcels. And as in keeping with our sale and disposal of surplus land, we have to declare it surplus before we can sell it. So that's what we're doing here. If approved, the bylaw will come forward later on in the meeting. We'll declare it surplus, and then her lawyers will begin the process of its sale, transferring it. Any questions?
Questions? Everybody remembers the last meeting then when we decided to do this? Everything's clear as mud? So no questions, we'll call for a vote. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Now we move on to number 7, notice of motion. I do believe we have a notice of motion. Councillor McLaughlin.
Yes, I would like to bring a motion forward that the Council of the Whitewater Region waive the rule of process with 2/3 of support to consider a motion that I will bring forward that is not on the agenda. The recruitment of the manager of park and recreation position in order to receive a report from the CAO to consider restructuring the department. And I think what we need is 2/3 of the vote. So I don't know whether you go around the table. Do I need a seconder for this motion, for this? Okay, I'm going to look for a seconder then. That's Councillor McKay.
Good, it wasn't on. Councillor McKay is the seconder, so you have your seconder.
So at this point then, do we call the vote? Is that how it works? Because I need 2/3 of support.
Yes, so yes, we can go around the table, or do we do it like we do a vote it?
So just to clarify, it is a debatable motion, but you should generally speak on why add this now. Why? Because it wasn't circulated with the agenda. Should note that we are interviewing next Friday, so that is probably kind of why the council would like to have it added now. So this motion, 2/3, is about adding the item to the agenda. Should that motion pass, then you would consider the actual motion that the council would like to get discussed tonight.
Yeah.
Next Friday.
So now we go to discussion, or we vote first to get 2/3?
We have to do a vote.
Yeah,
before
you
we
can, I should just say that if there's no discussion on whether to add it, you can vote on whether to add the item. That requires 4 votes in the affirmative.
Okay, so at this time, we'll have a show of hands. All in favor? 3-3.
We need 4 2/3 vote. We need 2/3, so 4 people.
It should ask for against.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did 4, now we'll ask for a vote on against. Show of hands? So 3-3.
It loses.
So it loses?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's dead then? Okay. Councillor McKay? We can't discuss it. but-
I think I missed something. What's the significance of this vote? You want to hire somebody else? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, Parks and Rec gentleman is gone, so
Yep.
the posting has gone out, and the interviews are next Friday.
And the councillor was attempting to add a motion that's not on the agenda to discuss whether or not to fill it or not fill it.
Okay.
But the motion to add it to today's agenda, despite the fact it's not on there, did not have the required support, so it can't be discussed.
Okay, I misunderstood that. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. So now we move on. Any other notices of motion at this time? Councillor Nicholson.
I have a staff request. I don't know if it needs to be a notice of motion, but just, I coordinated with Lane, but I'd like to get an analysis of a historical access via a culvert at 415 Rapid Road. The owner, Bruce Bromley, has asked for it to be replaced, and I just would like.
That's the
it to-
one he puts his cattle up on, underneath the road instead of across the road?
There's some historical access stuff that needs to be investigated, and then it probably should come back to council for a decision. So I'm just asking for the staff time to be invested into that, if possible.
So Lane, was staff working on a report? Because if not, then it would be a motion that the councillor would bring at the next meeting to direct us to do the report. Like, is staff working on this issue, or do we need direction to work on it?
Direction, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that that's on the next agenda, so that, just because I should just say that these issues take a lot of time, and we're short two managers right now, and in mid-construction season, and although that's an important issue, it's important to do direction. So if you want us to do it and make time for it, that we find the time. So we'll work on a notice on the actual wording of the motion with the councillor for the next meeting.
No, and that's why I wanted it to come. I didn't want to be the one asking. Thank you.
I have a quick question on that. I know we're not supposed to ask questions, but is this crucial, or is this something to get on the agenda? Like, it's not falling apart right now. He's still using it. Everything's fine, but just it should be replaced. Is that the idea?
The bottom is completely rusted out, so it's got 2 feet of a gap the whole length of it.
Okay.
So, and there are some other environmental concerns associated with it, so I think it needs to be addressed as part of this year's agenda.
Okay, thank you. Hope I didn't cross over any lines by asking that question. Okay. Is that it for notice of motion? Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you. And we move on to 8, adoption of minutes. Regular council, recommendation of the council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the regular minutes of April 20, 2021. Oh, what?
Oh, it's 2022.
It is 2022. See, I was just reading what was in front of me. So let's do this again, that the council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the regular minutes of April 20, 2022. Motion and a seconder, please. Councillor Mackay and Reeve Rigier, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Correspondence, you'll see written. And then we move down to bylaws, number 10. Where's my recommendation? Here it is. Recommendation, be it resolved that the bylaws listed on the May 4th, 2022 agenda be taken as read and passed. Motion and a seconder, please. Councillor McLaughlin and... Oh, sorry, Councillor Mackay. Oh, I don't know why I do that. I really don't. I have a seconder, please.
I think I know, Mr. Mayor.
Second is Reeve Rigier. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We are now out at 6:55. Thank you very much.